In the 11th chapter, we are going to deal with the Caro-Kann defense and the Pirc Caro-Kann. It is a very solid system, so black plays c6 with the idea to play d5. Now, unlike the main theory of d4, and then after d5 there's number of choices, you can play knight c3, you can play e5, the advanced variation. We are going to play knight f3, and there's a rather rare system that we would like to present to you. So naturally, black normally here plays d5, but there's also the so-called Caro-Pirc system. So black plays g6, and his idea is to play bishop g7, fianchetto his ducks with bishop, and then at some point play d5. Now, nothing really changes from our perspective. We are playing d4 because without this central d-pawn movement, it's going to be quite difficult for you to get a good game. Black plays bishop g7. And now a very nice move here, h3, which quite often deals with future black's bishop g4 ideas, attacking your knight on f3. So black plays d5, and now we are going to continue in the same manner as the main lines of this chapter. We are taking on d5 to get some sort of a cusp structure. Now, one of the best qualities of the cusp structure that the plan is very straightforward. And as I already have mentioned in this course earlier, this structure, the arrow, which you can see your pawns are positioned, the b2, c3, d4, they're basically pointing towards the king side. This means that you are looking for a king side attack. That's why here your moves are really simple to make. Bishop f4, knight f6, knight e2, castles, bishop e2. There's no need to put the bishop on d3 because it would prompt the black to trade the duck let's with bishops. Bishop f5 is the main move. If black plays something like queen b6, attacking your pawn on b2, I mean, you can always play queen b3, threaten to take on b6, and essentially create a potential target with bishop c7. So if black trades, you play a takes on b3, and your idea is to shoot castle, rook a3, other rook goes to a1, and very annoying b4, knight b3, knight c5, or maybe b4, b5, creating this potential weakness on the pawn a7. So instead, probably black has to play a bit more cautious. He plays bishop f5. Also notice that one of the extra qualities of having included h3 is that you are never now afraid of the incoming knight h5, because you don't, in general, you don't want to give up your dark swap bishop against this knight. So after short castle, let's say black plays something like knight e4, we play rook e1, rook c8, bishop f1, we're threatening to take on e4, retreat on d2, and we're thinking about this king side attack. Let's say knight e2, queen d2, our ideas could be bishop h6, rook d1, maybe trade the ducks with bishops, put the queen somewhere on f4 with g5, and again, following this pattern, this direction of the pawns, we're looking towards a king side attack. Let's go back to the main line. In most of the occasions, of course, your opponents there will respond with the Caro-Kann, d5, and now comes the e takes on d5 surprise. So naturally, black has to take with the pawn, because taking with the queen would lead black to a weird Scandinavian. You just play knight c3 and d4, and you know, black has committed himself to a rather strange c6 move. So after c takes on d5, there comes the first surprise. Knight e5. Now, this is a move I've faced myself quite a bit, and it's very, very unpleasant for black if he doesn't know how to respond. The idea is still to go for some cusp structures. So we want to play at some point d4, c3, and start this simple kingside attack. And why we are playing knight e5 before d4? Because black would play bishop g4, e6, pin your knight on f3, and then it's, you know, slightly problematic to deal with this pin. So that's why we play knight e5. Of course, I think black has to respond with something like knight c6. We play d4, and now black has his first choice. Either he leaves the knight alone on e5, or he takes it. So if black takes the knight on e5, we reach some sort of a French defense position, right? Imagine yourself that this would be a French defense. Black had played c5, c takes on d4, and we recapture the pawn on d4 with something. So quite characteristically to the French defense positions, The square on d4 makes a very nice outpost, so you would probably imagine it would be great to position there something like a knight or a bishop. And again, we're thinking about a kingside attack, because this pawn on e5 creates some targets. Actually, here black needs to be a bit careful, because if he wants to bring out his last square bishop and then close the center with e6, the a4, e8 diagonal is very weak, so you can immediately exploit it. Check, bishop d7, and snatch the pawn for free. So black cannot do that, and he has to probably play e6. Now this imprisons the bishop on c8, so you position the bishop on d3, knight e7, short castle, knight c6, and rook e1. So it's really simple for you to play, and if allowed, of course, you always want to play queen g4, because queen g4 is such a typical move for the French defense. Let's say black plays bishop c5. Before putting knight on f3, you bring out the queen, you play bishop h6, next moves could be something like knight e2, knight f3, knight f3, h4, h5, bishop g5 or bishop g7, and the black king is always feeling rather unsafe, and he's experiencing some problems because of the dark squares. So if black touches the pawn, f6 or f5, you just pretty much always take it and weaken the black king. So knight f6 also is a move. Now we're continuing with the same plan. We play c3, and here black has once again some choices. So knight takes on e5 doesn't really make any sense because black is losing a tempo. He has to do something else. So we are going to treat bishop f5 as the main move so that black can continue healthy development with e6. But let's check what happens if black plays e6 immediately. Now after e6, this is slightly passive because the bishop on c8 becomes imprisoned. We are playing knight e2. Our idea is we are thinking about maybe knight f3 next, definitely bishop on d3. The knight on e5 could be strengthened with the pawn on f4. And again, we're thinking about this kingside attack. So let's say black decides to attack your knight immediately. Now it's time to play f4. We secure ourselves this outpost on e5. Show castle, bishop d3. We make sure that black cannot jump to e4, at least not immediately. And your next moves involve queen f3, queen h3, g4, g5, queen h7, checkmate. If black at any moment he includes something like h7, h6, this is great for you, because that's what I would call a hook, and you can immediately target it with g4, g5, maybe even rook g1, and black might regret having the pawn on h6. So for example, black here plays knight e7. His idea is to get rid of your knight, because if he doesn't do that, he takes with the bishop. Of course, you take with the f pawn, opening your docks with bishop, opening the f file potentially for your rook. So knight e7, show castle f6. Now we have a cute idea, queen h5. The threat is bishop h7, bishop g6, and queen h7 on the board. So black cannot really take the piece. He has to close the position, f5. Now, everything you need to know about this position, as beautiful as your knight on e5, black has a very serious counter chance, and that is knight f6 and knight e4, because you have weakened the e4 square. And it's going to be very difficult for you to get rid of this knight. And that's why it's a good idea to kill this knight immediately. Black takes it, and we launch the other knight to e5. So for black, it's much more difficult now to get the knight on c6 on e4. So it's going to take a long time. Bishop e8, queen h3, bishop g6, rook e1. Again, your ideas involve bishop d2, knight g5, maybe double the rooks, maybe at some point g4 or h4, h5. So you should be focusing on the kingside play. Let's go back for a moment. Instead of bishop d6, black also can decide, okay, now it's the time to take on e5. Obviously, we take with the pawn, knight d7, knight f3, queen c7. So, of course, black can challenge your pawn on e5, so we should protect it, bishop f4. Let's say black continues normal development. There's one idea I would like to show you, which you should be familiar with. That is the so-called Greek gift, which is possible after black plays a short castle. Now we have a surprising resource. Bishop takes on h7, exposing the black king. Now the point is that after king takes on h7, knight g5 leads to victory. Black has no satisfactory defense because we want to play queen h5 and checkmate the king on h7. So should the black king go to g6, we can play queen d3. Again, we're thinking about queen h7 checkmate, the king has nowhere to escape. And if black plays something like f5, remember, you always have en passant check, take it, king f6, and simply take on c7 and thank you for the queen. If the black king after knight g5 goes back, king g8, queen h5 is a great move, but of course, in very similar circumstances, because this position might not necessarily repeat exactly as it is, watch out for black not having the move knight f6, because this would attack the queen and it would also defend the h7 square. Here you see it's impossible because the f6 square is protected by our pawn. And if black plays rook d8 and he's dreaming to escape, meaning queen h7, he's dreaming he's going to escape f8 and e7, we have a very nice intermezzo move, queen f7. After king h8, queen h5, king g8, now we give a check, we give a check, we give a check, and you see black doesn't have the pawn on f7 anymore, and after king e8 is queen f7, mate on the board. It's really cute, it's really simple, this trick is already known for many years, so don't miss it. Alright, here black also could consider to play g6. Entering some sort of a Pirc's Caro-Kann position, fianchettoing the Daxo bishop on g7. Well, we are continuing in the same manner. Knight e2, bishop g7. Here, it's a very nice idea to play bishop b5, meaning we are applying some pressure against the knight on c6. But actually, the big point is we want to trade black's Lesba bishop. Because in this position, after knight f3, castles, castles, a6, bishop d3, you're going to see that in the long term, you really deserve this Lesba bishop because you're going to start this king set attack, and the bishop on d3, when the position opens at the king set, is going to be really valuable. Your next moves involve rook e1, bishop f4, knight e5, and as soon as, let's say, after knight e5 he takes it, you can consider taking with the bishop, you can consider taking with the pawn. Actually, I think taking with the pawn is slightly more ambitious. And after the knight retreats, a very common way to continue attack is h4, h5, rook e3, rook h3, and start this king set attack. Speaking once again about the cosp structure, it goes without saying that also black has a counterplay, and he is supposed to play e6, maybe the arrow goes the other way, there you go, and start a queenside assault, trying to create a weakness on the pawn on c3. Let's go back. So here, after c3, let's treat bishop f5 as the main move. Now we are playing bishop b5, once again pinning the knight on c6. Black has a couple of choices how to respond. So queen b6 we're going to treat as the main move here. But let's say black plays something like rook c8. After rook c8 we continue development, knight e2. Now black cannot get rid of the spin easily, because it just costs a pawn, right? You just collect the pawn, thank you for it, retreat back, play a simple game. So black plays e6. Now you might remember something, wait a second, I might have seen something like this before in a couple of previous chapters, most notably about the Scandinavian. So once again, g4 is a great move. The same idea all over again. Bishop g6, h4. We are trapping the bishop. And the bishop cannot really go to e4 because you have the move f3, he has to go back. And if black plays h5, you already recognize the motive. You take on g6 by creating incredible weakness on g6. So whatever you do here, either bishop d3 immediately or g5 looks great. For example, let's say black plays something like knight g8, you attack this pawn immediately, queen d3, knight e7, knight f3, knight e5. These weaknesses, they're conquered. Yeah, maybe what I would like to mention here is that probably it's not a good idea to jump queen c2 under some pins here, right? So be a bit careful with your execution, but the pawn on g6 is going nowhere. But let's say if black plays knight g4, this is a bit risky, because after bishop d3, knight e7, knight f1, you're simply trapping the knight with f3 and it has nowhere to go. So black already is on the verge of collapse right after the opening. Finally, after knight e2, e6, where was this? Just a second. Yeah, here. Here, black also has queen c7, which is a mistake because it jumps under a tempo. Bishop f4. You're threatening mainly with knight g6, attacking the queen. The knight protects the bishop and also is attacking the rook. Of course, sometimes there might be some other moves like knight c6 and jumping back with the knight, but this pawn is incredibly unpleasant. And if black plays queen b6, you essentially continue in the same position with an extra tempo, which you are about to see. For example, black plays queen b6 immediately. Now we change the structure. We switch to some sort of a isolated queen's pawns position. After c4, we are going very sharp with knight c3, queen a4. We try to use the weaknesses of this weakness on c6, this very annoying pin. So let's say here black plays something like e6, tries to quickly continue development. Queen a4 is already a major threat. You want to play knight x on c6, bishop c6 and win the game. Rook c8, there you go, another tempo. c5, queen f5, you simply collect the queen. Black gonna do that because there's a pin. Queen c7, bishop f4, once again is an extra tempo with all of the threats that are coming out of it. So for example, let's say black plays a6. Now we can carry out the idea which you already know. We take on c6 and there's your knight g6. So the knight on g6 protects the bishop, which is attacking the queen, and also we are attacking the rook on h8. Let's say black plays something like queen b7, we take the rook, black takes on b2, castles, here, black wins back the rook, but after queen b4, we are threatening to win the queen. With knight c3, the queen is trapped, or queen b7, attacking the rook on c8, and also queen on f7, because the knight on h8 is still doing something, so black is simply busted. Let's say black plays knight h5, he challenged your bishop here. Now you take on c6. Black has to react to the trade because the bishop at f4 is attacking the queen. And after knight f4, you simply take on a7, you collect a lot of material. That's a check, king e7, take on c8, queen c8, and short castle. That's it. Of course, slightly watch out for the knight on f4, so that you're not missing something like a mate in 2, but doesn't look really possible. Finally, let's say black plays knight e7, he tries to close this pin. Once again, you take with the knight. You don't play knight g6 now because knight c6 is simply stronger. Queen f4, and now you go back. You see that black is doomed because of this pin. And black might give you a check here on c1, king e2, another check on b2, knight e2, and that's it. Black can already safely resign. There's one more line we have to yet see. After c4, if black takes on c4, and now there's quite a surprising development. We are playing knight a3. With the idea is to take with the knight on c4 at some point, winning another tempo. For example, black plays e6. We give away the bishop. We take on c4. Now this is the tempo. The queen retreats. We finish the development. Bishop e7, and simply play queen e2. Now this pawn on c6 is an easy target. We're also thinking about moves like bishop f4. And should black continue development, you already recognize the idea. Again, it's g4. Now the trick here is that black has to play bishop g6. Because if he plays bishop e4 after g5, the bishop on e4 loses support because the knight has to go away. After bishop g6, we play h4. We provoke black to play either h6 or h5. For example, black plays h5. Of course, we just take on g6, we snatch the pawn on e6 for free, and after king h7, we play something ambitious as knight e5, h takes on g4, queen takes on c6, securing white an extra pawn and excellent winning chances. Let's summarize a bit what we learned from this chapter. It's really simple. A plan-based chess. Once again, we are dealing with the Caro-Kann and the Caro-Pirc structure. We play knight f3. And if black plays something like g6, we play d4, we play h3, we take on d5 for a simple game. And you're going to appreciate the pawn on h3 because your bishop goes on f4 and if necessary can hide on h2. Your moves involve knight e2, bishop f4, short castle, rook e1, and look for a kingside attack. Now instead of black goes for the main line, which is d5, we have a surprise for black. We take on d5, c takes on d5, and knight e5. Our idea is to play d4, c3. Sometimes the bishop goes to b5, but in general we're looking for a simple kingside attack. For example, knight c6, d4, knight f6, c3, and if black plays something like e6, we are putting the knight on d2, we are playing f4, we are playing bishop d3, and we're looking for simple ways to conduct a kingside attack with queen f3, queen h3, g4, g5.
Access ChessEnigma's free sample lessons. Enjoy videos, interactive exercises, and a digital board to practice anywhere on any device. Sign up for free and start improving your chess from home today.